The saddest days are met. The saddest days are met.
Middlesbrough, land of the palm oil, where the delicacy is chicken and cheese and the smoke comes for free. It has some incredibly unique, very notable figures. Chris Rea, the voice of Middlesbrough, Brian Howard Clough, biggest personality English football, British football's ever seen. Your Stewie Downans, your Jonathan Woodgate, your Peter Beagries. He learned to do that backflip off the cemetery wall in North Oldby on his way to school in Keldome. Amelia Lilly, Journey South, Chris Kamara, unbelievable Jeff. I'm trying to think, Bob Mortimer. There's a lot of really interesting, a lot of famous people. Cornelius Carr just missed out close on it. Pushed Steve Collins all the way for a world title. Yeah, it does get a lot of bad rep the last couple of years. The town, in my opinion, is changing, and it's getting bigger. You know, there's now a direct train to London. There's buildings galore all over. I know after the recession, or when it started, when the 2007, basically people started struggling to get work. I struggled to get work. You know, everyone stopped building. They just started putting fences around everything, and everyone was put on hold for a couple of years. But now it's better. There's kind of universities, there's hotels opening left, right, and centre. Of course, the most notorious man to ever walk the streets, Lee Duffy. I did 3 books on him. I did 2 documentaries. So many people. When I did them books, I've almost lost my personality. I was walking through Soho about 6 months ago. I was down there meeting Alex Reid, and just before I met him, a guy stopped me. You might be watching this actually, all right, mate. So he lived in Greece, and he was over here on holiday in London, and he stopped me to ask me about Lee Duffy, and that was in the centre of Piccadilly Circus or somewhere, you know. So yeah, there's a huge interest in Duffy, and I get it. I totally get his story's unique, but there's far more. There's a lot more. Pauline, Wendy Richards from EastEnders, Mavis from Coronation Street. I think she's still alive now as well. The guy who played Brian Tilsley's from Middlesbrough. God, if I sat and thought about it, I could really think of, there's a couple of young brothers at the minute, the Hardwick brothers from near Eston Way, Normanby. They're both at the minute, both world champion MMA guys. There's a lot of history around here, and I get it. I'm a massive history geek, and this is what this channel is going to be about. I'm going to get out and about and stick my head in the beehives and kind of piss people off or whatever. But it's an interesting place, and population in Middlesbrough back in 1990, I know this because I did for the Lee Duffy books, was 149,000. I think it's now 140,000, but across Teesside it's 377,000, and Teesside's a massive place. You know, you're talking about your Stokesleys, your Great Aytons, your Stocktons or whatever. It is an absolute huge place. It is changing for the better, but the most notable and recognisable place, I spoke to one guy, I won't name, he's quite very famous a couple of years. He said, you know what, when I'm out of the country or I'm in London, he said, when I come back, he said, I get a lump in my throat when I see that. And that is the sign of Middlesbrough. It's the riverside, you know. So I suppose this is be classed as St Hilda's or over the border. And the people of the St Hilda residents used to go swimming in the River Tees, you know, probably oblivious to the dangers, the rats, the diseases, Whelan's disease and all that kind of thing. But you know, in the 70s and the 80s, it was very, very different. I'll tell you one story. I interviewed a guy years ago, and this is absolutely true. A couple of Hartlepool lads I did a book on, the back story up. Now, I think that is it 166 feet, or I can't, it's massive anyway. But basically, there was a guy in the 60s who had a bet in the pub, and he was pissed, and he still had his work gear on, right? Now, this might sound a tall story, but one guy I interviewed watched it. He had a bet that he'd jump off the top of there and he did it in his work clothes, and he was pissed. That's probably why he actually did it. Jumped off the top of that, and he actually lived to tell the tale. I think he lived in Haverton Hill, which is just off the other side. It's kind of just before you get to Hartlepool. I think it's actually one of my books, Hartlepool, our town, or it's either in McSorby's, but that's a true story. In Middlesbrough, I don't know whether it's the palm moors up here, I don't know whether it's the smog, the air, but it does breed kind of slightly people, very different, and in a polite term, possibly quite crackers. but I like interesting people. I like people who, I always find people who are slightly not quite right are the most interested and entertaining. Transport Bridge, where on the riverside, let us know your thoughts. You've got to film that. Middlesbrough is moving forward, in my opinion. Does get a bad rep. You know, it was, the fact he's a state of comment was, so 1994, Pallister Park got noted in, got mentioned in the House of Commons as being the worst area in Great Britain. Around the millennium, it did have a terrible, terrible reputation for vice girls, people who read the Gazette. You know, most of the scales of justice was people from Sheffield, Newcastle, and they were all coming for the red light area. But yeah, thankfully, I think that is kind of played out. But it always has its characters, has its names. You know, I think it's kind of my second uncle. My granddad's cousin, Jackie Parsons, was a big name in the town. And Middlesbrough will always produce these kind of people, because predominantly, overall, this is it's a very northern working town. Doesn't get any more kind of working class than Middlesbrough. But let us know your thoughts, let us know your opinions, write them below, keep them nice. And yeah, this is my Brian Clough top as well. So doesn't get any more Teesside. They've been under the Transporter Bridge with a Brian Clough jumper on, apart from I need some Chris Rea music on. I'll sort that in my next video.
The sunniest days are made.